Professor, it's good to see you. Thank you for speaking to us here on TRT. Well, firstly, you often hear black people say, quote, to be conscious of racial injustices is to remain in a state of constant rage. And I've just read a quote from one protester in Washington saying that as a black person, there is a persistent threat that one day you could wake up and be killed simply for being black. What does it say, in your opinion, that so many people of color feel this way in the year 2020?
Well, thank you for having me. And what I see this meaning is that, that there is a foundational social problem in the United States of America. The fact that this is something that a protester said is not something new. When you look back on the diaries of former slaves, when you look at the sharecroppers, when you look at black factory workers following the Great Migration, any particular sector of labor or any particular area in terms of a social space, we have always felt this kind of, we're walking on eggshells in the sense of, we know that this law was written against us to not be people, to not be equal to white people. Therefore, our lives don't matter because we have never been given power under this current U.S. system, going back to slavery days. So what it tells me is that nothing has changed much because the United States has never dealt with the race problem since the beginning of the race problem. It's always bandaged it via the Civil War, via the Civil Rights Movement, which was mostly just a bunch of legal documents, but didn't take into account the social problem of discrimination and the cultural underpinnings of racism, the social humiliation aspect of it. So again, that's what I see happening, is that the United States has never dealt with the race problem seriously because they don't consider us to be equal in any way, especially under the current labor system.
There's also this argument that it is an us versus them scenario. About 58% of Americans say race relations in the US is generally bad. That's according to a Pew poll last year. The figure seems low, in my opinion. But is it enough public demand for government to change the status quo that you're mentioning?
Yeah, excellent question, because this is something that I'm dealing with on a big occasion now, since we are in this moment that I call infra-political era, where everybody is angry, but nobody really knows how to coalesce that anger into an actual social movement to call for a radical change of the government structure. And yes, I agree. I argue that that figure is way too low and that we are not even close to an idea to enough people calling for a radical change. What I see happening now is a very 2015-ish or 1992-ish resolution. There's a bunch of corporations donating millions of dollars to what they call the fight against racial injustice. What does that actually mean? It's so abstract. We have no idea where the money's going. The money's not actually going into those spaces that have been ravaged by COVID-19, which are majority black working class spaces. They're not going towards defunding the police in terms of the fraternal order of police having so much sway over what happens to police officers who shoot black people or who shoot citizens. So again, there's all this talk about let's donate all this money, let's create all these offices and foundations, but we're going to keep the same government structure, keep the same system that continues to oppress black people and other folks of color and other minorities. So there's no real call at this moment for a real radical change of the system. And it's becoming very disheartening to see a lot of corporations basically hijacking the protests and rebellions to say that we're going to keep what we want happening in terms of a capitalist oppressive system against people of color. But hey, as long as we donate $1 million, then hopefully you all think that we care about racial inequality. And I think that it's taken away from the grassroots local rebellions on the ground. And we have to be cognizant of what this really means for the future.
Augustus, I'm really sad we have to end this interview now just for time. We appreciate you coming on, though. Thank you for sharing your perspective.